Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Goro Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Goro Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Goro Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai.
Jai
Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
Jai
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai
Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai
Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita reading. We are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 17, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his youth. So, we read yesterday how once Mahaprabhu was in his house and he was chanting Gopi Gopi. And one student happened to come by at that time to visit Nimai Pandit, and he saw him chanting Gopi Gopi, and he asked, "Oh Pandit, what piety is there in chanting the names of Gopi? You should chant the names of Krishna, because when you chant the names of Krishna, it brings punya, piety." So, Srila Prabhupada explained he was a smarta Brahmana, an atheistic Brahmana, a godless, non-devotee Brahmana. So it's possible to be a Brahmana and not be a devotee. Of course, it's possible. Uh, Even demigod worshippers, you don't call them devotees. You have Brahmanas who are worshipping demigods in temples. So, of course, it doesn't mean that all demigod worshippers are, non-devotees. Doesn't mean like that. But there are, you can be a Brahmana and non-devotee. Of course you can. So this was such a Brahmana who knew the scriptures and everything, but he doesn't understand that the goal of all scriptures is to worship Krishna. So he's thinking chanting the names of the Lord is also one of the other punya karmas, like giving dana, doing tapa, doing yagya, doing vrata, like that. So therefore, he should not have asked. And who is Mahaprabhu? And what is he doing? He's chanting the names. So Gopi Gopi, when we say Hare Krishna, Hare means Radharani, she's a Gopi. So if Mahaprabhu is chanting Gopi Gopi, this neophyte student had no authority there. Of course, out of ignorance or innocence, he asked, but he should not have asked. That's the point. Then Mahaprabhu got angry. And what did he do? Krishna, that cheat, that debauchee, you want me to chant his name? And then he picked up a stick to run after this student. So there again, Prabhupada explained in gist that what happened. But we'll read it now. What happened after that? Let's continue. So Mahaprabhu ran after him with a stick. Text. Shuni Prabhu Krode Koilo Krishna Dosho Gara Henga Loya Utila Prabhu Poduya Mari Bara. Hearing the foolish student, the Lord became greatly angry and rebuked Lord Krishna in various ways. Taking up a stick, he rose to strike the student. So we read this also. How when Uddhava came to meet the gopis on Krishna's um, request, Srimati Radharani was calling Krishna names, various names. Uh, but this is, Prabhupada explained, this is the exuberance of her matchless love for Krishna. This is the ecstasy of love to call Krishna names. But ordinary people won't understand that. So when Mahaprabhu called, Krishna, that, various ill names, it was Srimati Radharani out of love calling. But the student didn't understand. He's thinking, oh, this is a Brahmana. And being a Brahmana, he's calling the Supreme Lord Krishna. Well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, he was an atheist. Nevertheless, right? So he's calling Krishna names, right? Actually, that was not what offended him so much. What offended him was why he's chastising me. I'm a Brahmana. I gave him good advice. According to Shastra, I said chant the Lord's names. Why you're chanting Gopi's names? For that he attacked me. Like that. So let's see. Hmm? I can't hear. You'll have to speak. Still can't hear. You'll have to connect and speak through the laptop. भोए पलाय पड़ुया प्रभु पाछे पाछे धाया आस्ते व्यस्ते भक्तगण प्रभु रे रहाया. Then what did the student do? The student ran away in fear. Mahaprabhu was chasing after him with a stick, and to save his life, he ran from there in fear. And the Lord followed him. He was running, and Mahaprabhu was running after him, not just chased him away. He was running after him with a stick. Somehow or other, the devotees checked the Lord. So, luckily, there were some devotees around, so they stopped the Lord from beating the student. So the student was able to escape. प्रभु रे शांत कोरी अनिल निज प्रभु रे शांत कोरी अनिल निज घरे पडुया पलाया गेला पडुया सभारे. The devotees pacified the Lord and brought him home, and the student ran away to an assembly of other students. This is where the problem happened. The student went to an assembly of thousands of students who were gathered like a classroom. पढ़ुया सहस्र जहाँ पढ़े एक ठाई प्रभुर वृत्तांत द्विज कोहे तहाँ जाए. The Brahmin student ran to a place where 1,000 students were studying together. There he described the incident to them. Usually, generally, if anything happens between two people, it can be solved, right? If there is some misunderstanding or some harsh exchange of dialogue, if it is just between the two people, in time it can be solved. But when you take it to others, the more people you speak about it, the more difficult it becomes to mend this relationship, isn't it? Anyway, so this student, what did he do? He went and he told not to one other friend, but he went and told in an assembly, like, sending a message on the internet or something. This is what happened, like that. Then it becomes out of control. Now everyone will start putting in their, opinions. No, how this can be, how this person behaved like this, and then a small spark becomes a big fire. So student went to an assembly of together, and then narrated what happened. But what? In this verse, we find the word Dvija, indicating that the student was a Brahmana. Actually, in those days, only members of the Brahmana class became students of Vedic literature. Schooling is meant especially for Brahmanas. Previously, there was no question of schooling for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, or Shudras. Not even Kshatriyas, Vaishyas. They're called Dvijas, but schooling. So Kshatriyas, they would learn what is required for them. So they would learn the Shastra Vidya, right? Whatever is required for their particular occupation. But studying all, well, if he's a king, the king also, actually, he would have an advisor, like Lord Ramchandra had Vashishta Muni, right? And like Dhritarashtra Maharaj had Dronacharya, Kripacharya. So usually there would be a Brahmana guiding the king. So Srila Prabhupada is saying in those days schooling was not meant even for Kshatriyas, what to speak of Vaishyas or Shudras. Schooling was meant only for the Brahmanas, studying the Vedas. There was no question of schooling for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas or Shudras. Kshatriyas used to learn the technology of warfare and Vaishyas learned business. So even these things, in Shastra Pramana we learn, right? Shastras give us knowledge about Shastra. What is Shastra? Shastra is non-defective Shabda. Not for something to be non-defective Shabda, for it to qualify as non-defective Shabda, it should have knowledge, all types of knowledge. Whatever knowledge there is in this whole world, all that and much more beyond that. Everything has to be there in that. Only then you can call it non-defective Shabda or Shastra. So then immediately when you say this, all other scriptures will follow it. Because they have to meet that mark. You find all that knowledge in the scriptures. So here there is knowledge about how to do farming, how to do business, how to do cow protection, how to use a sword in battle, right? How to rule, diplomacy. All these things will be there in Shastra. So Kshatriyas will learn what is required for them, Vaishyas will learn what is required for them, and for Shudras, they don't go to school to learn those things. Actually, they are trained at home only, right? Kshatriyas used to learn the technology of warfare and Vaishyas learned business from their fathers or other businessmen. They were not meant to study the Vedas. At present, however, everyone goes to school and everyone is given the same type of education, isn't it? The whole class, if there's 50 students, everyone has the same textbook, the same workbooks, the same, syllabus, regardless of whether you are from a Kshatriya background, Vaishya, and everyone passes out of school and then there's a competition to enter into a college because everybody has the same qualification. Is this a very scientific system? So anyway, uh, everyone goes to school. Everyone is given the same type of education. Although
Later on, right, Mataji? So
Mataji,
even now,
specialization
is also because earlier also in Gurukul they were like gurus used to observe them, right, by giving everything, by teaching them everything to see who is strong in what. Like in Mahabharat we see that the Shastra, whoever is strong in whichever astra, So they were taught specifically that, right? And
Yeah,
then
but first the guru will, even before taking him into the Gurukula, he will see the qualification, whether he's a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. He won't give
yeah,
education right away. First they'll make them work. They'll do all types
yeah,
of
I'm
menial
just
jobs.
comparing between that time, and of course that's not the same education, but now the primary education is general education, and then specialization starts after college, during college. Whoever
Yeah,
goes
but
to the
yeah,
doctor or engineer or like that.
yeah, but so much time is wasted. Primary education goes for 15 years, Mataji. Not in 15, 17 years. What is this?
That
By
is
that time, they would have been settled already, isn't it?
that is true.
They're
Yes.
married and they have their, kingdom and everything all by that time. What's his name? Abhimanyu was 16 years old. He made his life success when he was 16. He had a son. He was married and he had such an undying fame, for the rest of.
Plus at that time they lived so long. Now we live lesser time and we
And
waste
all
more
that
time.
time is used up in primary education.
Yeah, that's true.
And by the time we go to specialization, our hair is graying and our memory is becoming weak. And now we are supposed to toil with all that specialized education. You want to
That's
become a doctor, 35 years still you're studying, not even settled in life.
that is true. Very bad. Yes, Madhuri.
So, what is, you can't even start your life. You just have this myth in your mind thinking that, oh, I'm a doctor. But look at your life. You're still like, I can't have any fun. So many years I've been studying, 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 studying. It's like, for what? And then you just go, and after all this, it's not even like you have the honor of, now you are the head here. You are just a servant, go and apply for a job in some hospital, right? You are still doing the work of a Shudra after all that specialization. So, really, this system is keeping us as servants only. It's not helping us to, not at all scientific, not identifying who you are. There's nothing bad in being a Shudra. If you are a Shudra, then you should be trained according to a Shudra. But if you are a Brahmana, why should you be forced to work like a Shudra? If you are a Kshatriya, why should you be forced? Recognize, identify that. So, this is actually fruitful. You're making use of your life. This is such a waste of valuable human energy and time just to learn some, you know, and that what we learn keeps changing every year also. Even the textbooks are changing all the time. What's the whole point in spending? You ask me about what I learned in school, maybe I can count on fingertips what I remember, a few things. Most of it is experiences rather than the subjects that we learn in the books. And now I don't think what I learnt is even valid in today's world. I see my children's biology classes and all that, and forget about social studies. They have changed the number of planets that we learnt, and so many things have changed already. I can't even relate to what they are studying now. So what is the use of that type of education? I've spent so many years in that for what? I wish I had studied, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam nicely memorized, because my memory was good at that time. I spent years memorizing all these scientific names, of these pathogens and insects, and years memorizing life cycles of this insect and that insect and this pathogen. I don't even use any of that, and all my memory is spent in memorizing those things. Instead of that, I would have memorized Bhagavad Gita shlokas, Bhagavatam shlokas, right? It's possible. Children can learn the entire Bhagavad Gita. They can recite. Why not the entire Bhagavatam also? They can recite. That would have been such a plus. Anyway, it's okay. We learn. This is like after doing something bad, then you realize, oh, this should not be done. At least there's some experience there. Let's continue. So, Mataji said something.
Yes, yes, Mataji, I was saying something. So only the Brahmanas used to go to school at that time. So there were thousands of Brahmana students. They were in one place
No,
gathered.
no. Depending on the teacher. So, Gurukul is run by the teacher. Each guru has his own school. So, like Nimai Pandit, every day 20 new students were joining, every single day. So, his number is increasing. So, there can be thousands in just one teacher's classroom if he's a very successful teacher. Or some other, like they say Chatushpati, right? Some other, just you have like a few, maybe 4 students, depending on how successful the teacher is. So, at this particular, sometimes even students from other teachers, they all come and gather. Like we go to school, and then in the evening you have a private tuition, and from different schools students all come together and gather in the evening. They exchange, they have their dialogue. So I don't know exactly the nature of this gathering, if they were all from the same teacher, or it looks more like different students all gathered in one place. 1,000 students were gathered there, like that.
Okay, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hare Krishna. So let's just finish this purport here. Uh, so at present, however, everyone goes to school and everyone is given the same type of education, although no one knows what the result will be. That's another thing. After all the studies, still there is no certainty that because I spent so many years, I will certainly be successful. No guarantees. You study to be a doctor and then you end up being a clerk in some government office. Happens. So many times it happens. After you study all that, there's no guarantee that you'll even work, do anything related to what you studied. In fact, I think this happens quite commonly. I think I've seen also. Look at me. I don't do what I studied. And nowadays, especially, even more, everyone goes into software. How many have actually studied, computer
Yes,
science in college?
I was going to say that people study, they spend their 20 years studying something and finally do something else
Right.
and not even use that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's without even knowing the result, Prabhupada is saying, although no one knows what the result will be. And then the interesting thing is the parents, after, let's say, now I have gone through this myself, now I will push my children to walk the same path. Although I have ended up doing something which I didn't study for, but I was listening to Prabhupada's lecture yesterday. Prabhupada says, Bhediya Dhasan. Bhediya Dhasan means, Bhediya means lamb, sheep, right? So you push one sheep into the slaughterhouse, looking at that one sheep, the whole herd of sheep, he says, but, they all go into the slaughterhouse because that one is following, they'll also follow. Nobody thinks, are we are going into the slaughterhouse, I'm going to get slaughtered there. That one is going, let's all go. We have become like that. We also push, yes, everyone is doing that, we also should do, because this is the norm, this is the thing to do. Otherwise, how will survive? Let's go. This is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 5th canto. Jad Bharat says to Rahugada Maharaj, parents see that what is, their life has passed now. What is there in family life, all the struggles and everything, father knows. And then he will push his son also. Now you should also become responsible, you should get married and this and that. And he'll make him go through the same cycle. He is never satisfied with his life, and he will push his son into the same type of lifestyle. Why? Because he doesn't know anything better. He doesn't know anything better. And although it is suffering, he said, let's do. You also do. Like that. So anyway, that is why we need Shastra, we need sadhus to see, like Srila Prabhupada is saying, although no one knows what the result will be. The result, however, that is also said, the result, however, is most unsatisfactory. Who does not agree with this? After all that hard work, the result is most unsatisfactory. Temporarily, flickering, for a flickering moment, you'll feel, I am successful, right? I get a visa to go to the United States. Oh, my life is successful. I'm going to the United States. And then what? You go there and then you struggle, isn't it? And then you get a nice position, you get a good job. Oh, now I'm, have a good position. My life is successful. And then what? You struggle, you struggle. There is struggle constantly. All our success is not really something which is giving us joy. Think about it. It's just to show people that I am successful. And when you show people that I am so great, that is the source of your happiness, or at least you think this will make me happy. I'll tell everyone, see how successful I am. Tell my relatives and show the world I have achieved this. But in my heart, I know I am not happy. I am not happy with this. I have to struggle every day. Yes, who is not unhappy? One who just does it, like we were reading about Ambarish Maharaj. Of course, Ambarish Maharaj is a pure devotee. But I'm saying somebody who does it as a matter of duty, not expecting some pleasure out of it, not expecting that, this is success, and he's not expecting to enjoy that position. He's just doing it as a matter of duty. Such a person can be peaceful. But if you're actually thinking, this is the source of my happiness, you're going to be the most miserable person because you will not be happy. So, all of you are devotees, so I know you will not be miserable. I'm just talking about materialistic people. Uh, uh, or even as devotees, if sometimes, right, if we think this will make me happy, very soon, almost immediately, we will realize my source of happiness is not in my job. My source of happiness is there in the temple, when I go on Sundays, when I go on Saturdays, when I go on festivals, when I do some service in the temple, when I go and do some book distribution for Srila Prabhupada, when I make some garlands for the Lord, when I go and cook in the temple. That's where my source of happiness is. My job, I'm just doing it to get by, isn't it? But think about the people who don't have this. What is their source of happiness? Go and work, come home, turn on the television and sit in front of the television. And even that is not happiness, just like get away from boredom. So just turn on the television, keep changing channels all the time. Anyway. Yeah, no one knows what the result will be. The result, however, is most unsatisfactory, as we have seen in the Western countries especially. The United States, Prabhupada is talking about all of us. The United States has vast educational institutions. Talk about it. They are like cities practically. They're cities, the educational institutions. To go from one department to another, you need to take a bus or drive your car. From one department, to go from one class to another, you take a bus. So they have vast educational institutions where everyone is allowed to receive an education, and they advertise it like anything, right? You just get this degree and your future is so bright. But the result is what? Tell me, what is the result of that education? In the United States, you don't even have money, but they say we will give you loan. They start your life with a debt, and you end up, after you graduate, you end up with a big debt on your head, and you have to pay it off for I don't know how many years after that. What type of education, what type of freedom is this? Talk about freedom. You were better off without that education, where you were free. You didn't have any debt on your head before. The United States has vast educational institutions where everyone is allowed to receive an education, but the result is that the most students become like hippies. You go to the undergrad campuses and see, they're literally like hippies. getting drunk, especially weekends. There's crime, there's violence, there's, abuse. So many things happen. They live like hippies. Higher education is not meant for everyone. This is the whole point. This current system where everyone is given the same type of education, uh, so that education is not going to work. What quality of people are we bringing out from this type of education? Higher education is not meant for everyone. Only selected individuals trained in Brahminical culture should be allowed to pursue a higher education. Educational institutions should not aim to teach technology. This is another thing. Here, today's world, when we say higher education means you learn technology, isn't it? Higher education means technology, but technology is actually Shudra's work. Technology is Shudra's work. Higher education means higher science. You have to understand anything you read, studying about the body, how the body is working, matter. That is lower education. Higher means you go to subtler levels. Of course, to some extent, you have psychology. That means you study the mind. That's about it. Do they study intelligence? What to speak of false ego? And what to speak of soul? No education. And
Mataji,
then what to
Ashwini Kumar, even Ashwini Kumar, they were, remember, not given Somaras because they were lower caste
Yes.
there.
Yeah. They were doctors. Yeah. But yeah. So soul, and then super soul is after that. And after super soul, much beyond that is Bhagwan, Krishna. That you don't find. That type of education is not for everyone. It is not for everyone. We take it for granted that we are distributing Krishna consciousness to everyone. Krishna consciousness is not for the masses, it is for the classes. Of course, opportunity is given to everyone, but not everyone is going to take it. And anyone who's taking it is a very special person. Remember, anyone who's actually accepting it belongs to the classes, not to the masses. This is the highest type of education. Higher education is not meant for everyone. Also, like yesterday, we were reading in Bhagavad Gita, not yesterday, this morning for you. Right? Bhagavad Gita should be taught only amongst the devotees because it's not meant for everyone. Same point. Only selected individuals trained in Brahminical culture should be allowed to pursue a higher education. Educational institutions should not aim to teach technology, for a technologist cannot properly be called educated. A technologist is a Shudra. Only one who studies the Vedas may properly be called a learned man, Pandita. The duty of a Brahmana is to become learned in the Vedic literature, Patan, study himself, and teach Vedic knowledge to other Brahmanas, not everyone. He will teach Vedic knowledge to other Brahmanas, and he will also educate others. He won't teach them the Vedas, but he will tell them what is there in the Vedas according to the recipient, to the king. He will impart that knowledge which he needs. To the Vaishya, he will impart that knowledge which he needs. But the Vedas, he will teach to the Brahmanas. So the Brahmana's duty is first study himself and then teach others the Vedas. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we are simply teaching our students to become fit Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. In our school at Dallas, the students are learning English and Sanskrit. And through these two languages, they are studying all our books such as Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita as it is, and the Nectar of Devotion. So we only studied these books. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Sri Ishopanishad, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sufficient. We read these books. Of course, we also have further to understand. It's like churning. You have milk. Milk is nutritious, full. But if you churn it, you can get so many things out of it, isn't it? So you can make paneer, and then you can get cream, you can make ghee, you can make ice cream, you can make rabdi, you can make kheer and rasgulla, peda, sandesh, so many things you can make. Like that, you churn. So like this, the sandarbhas given by Srila Jiva Goswami, it's like churning. The Srimad Bhagavatam, like bringing out so many jewels out of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sandarbhas is nothing but Srimad Bhagavatam only. Only it is grouped, the verses, all the verses related to one particular topic are selected and put in one place. And he takes up another topic and all verses from Bhagavatam which are related to that he puts in another place. This is the Sandarbhas. That's also Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a higher study though. Prabhupada says in the first 111, Srimad Bhagavatam, purport Srila Prabhupada, a serious student would do better to study the commentaries of the Acharyas. It gives you an, it's like churning, like you'll go deeper and deeper into Srimad Bhagavatam, into Srila Prabhupada's purports too. When you read Srila Prabhupada's purports, then you'll know what jewels are hidden there. You can bring them out. But it's the next level of study, of course. First read Srila Prabhupada's purports nicely, and then you read that. Now come back and read Srila Prabhupada's purports, and then you'll see, oh wow, so many jewels are here, which I overlooked earlier. So it's a wonderful adventure. So, in our schools, we teach Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion. It is a mistake to educate every student as a technologist. That's the whole point Prabhupada is making. It's a mistake to educate everyone in the same way. There must be a group of students who become Brahmanas. Without Brahmanas who study the Vedic literature, human society will be entirely chaotic because we need guidance from Shastra. It's only Shastra that can give us guidance, and only Brahmanas are qualified to study Shastras. So don't we need Brahmanas? So if there are no Brahmanas, who will tell us what is there in the Shastra? So it is essential that there must be Brahmanas who will study the Vedas and decode it for the rest of the society and guide the society in the right direction according to the Vedas. So we will stop there. This whole purport Srila Prabhupada dedicated to the education system and how the Brahmanas are important. But only the Brahmanas study the Vedas. So training Brahmanas is important. That's why Srila Prabhupada emphasized on training Brahmanas first. But he said only 50% of my movement is complete because not everyone can become a Brahmana. Then what about the rest of the people? They also need some training or not? They do. So that has to be done also gradually. So we will stop here. I went over time again. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, take some ginger tea with honey and lemon.
Lemon. Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Because yeah, it will clear up your
Throat.
throat and nasal path.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sonia Mataji. You got the recording. I sent it.